memorable story, which was Knightfall. And people remember, of course, Batman's back being broken. But even before his back is broken, Bane, for a good series of issues, breaks him mentally and emotionally. And the breaking of his back is almost an afterthought. I mean, Batman is already shattered. He has no willpower to fight when that fight actually happens. He breaks open an asylum, lets out all these crazies, which I don't think is going to happen in this movie. Well, maybe not something exactly like that. There is a part where I see a bunch of prisoners coming out in the trailer, so that's something to think about. By the time Batman fights all these guys and brings them back in the asylum, he hasn't slept, he's barely eaten, he's exhausted. And the whole time Bane's been studying him, watching him. There's a part where, in Knightfall, where Bruce Wayne is walking out in a party. Batman just happens to be spying on that party, and he sees Bruce Wayne, and just by the way Bruce Wayne walks and moves, you can tell he's Batman. That's how intelligent he is. So if you play the outstanding Arkham Asylum and Arkham City games, you're going to have a if you don't know who Bane is, you're going to have a misleading interpretation of him, because that's maybe the weakest character in those games. Those games are really good with most of the characters, but Bane is actually pretty weak. He's just kind of a hulking idiot who charges at you. Kind of reminds me of Rhino in Spider-Man. And he's enormous, like just insanely, like over-the-top enormous, like Batman's up to his belly button kind of enormous, which is silly. I think he should be like about a head taller than him, which is an issue I do have with Tom Hardy, that they're about the same height. But it's a minor issue, but I think it's important because it makes him look more intimidating. But if Tom Hardy can counteract that with acting and be intimidating without the height factor, then so be it, He also should be South American. I mean, it may seem like a trivial detail, but I feel like it makes him foreign, it makes him be an outsider from Gotham, and it makes him unique, because if you think of every other Batman villain, they're all like kind of Anglo-Saxon white, and it just made Bane very unique to me. So yeah, he breaks Batman's spirit, and then breaks him, like, literally. If you think about the other villains, yes, Harvey Dent is an ultimate failure. Joker has done horrible things. He paralyzed Barbara Gordon, and he killed the second Robin. Some of Batman's worst moments were because of the Joker. But in terms of one-on-one, mano-a-mano, Batman's ultimate failure, his ultimate true loss, was to Bane in that one story, which makes Bane one of the most memorable villains that Batman has had. And I can see why Nolan liked that, because there's nothing more realistic, there's nothing more of a reminder of his humanity than Batman physically being broken like that. And in terms of the villains that we have, I think that he's chosen some of the best ones, because you have Ra's al Ghul, who is his past, and in a way they both want to change the world, but they just see it very differently. And you have Scarecrow, who brings out all of Batman's fears and uses fear as a weapon, which Batman does as well. You have the Joker, who shows you that all your rules are completely irrelevant, and that everyone is compromised, and puts Batman in these horrible situations and makes him make these horrible decisions. Two-Face, which reminds Batman of his worst failure. He almost told, in the comics anyway, he almost told Harvey Dent his true identity, and almost felt like he didn't even need to be Batman anymore with this guy here. That's how much he trusted him. And even after he falls, he always sees that he could maybe bring him back. And you have Catwoman, who makes Batman, I mean, it's an emotional thing, right? It shows him a little as human again, that he does have feelings, and he does have feelings for her, but it's a relationship that will never work because she's a criminal. And it's interesting because maybe it's the only villain that Batman will make compromises for and kind of let her get away. And he doesn't know if he can trust her. And then you have Bane, which is in a way his ultimate nemesis, because he is both a physical and intellectual threat. Whereas Riddler, he maybe will just get Batman to use his intellect, but eventually he always outsmarts Riddler. So he's smarter than Riddler, and then when it actually comes to a physical encounter, There's no question that Batman can take him down, no problem. The issue people have with some of the scenes, like the daylight scenes, well, first, it's not really daylight. It's kind of like this snow overcast look, like a gray kind of look to it. But more importantly, you have to remember, this is the third film in a trilogy. I'm a Batman guy, and I know the rules, but in a third film, the rules are irrelevant. This is 8 years later. This is the most experienced Batman we're going to ever see in a film. And in this film, he is coming up against maybe the ultimate villain and the worst scenario possible, even worse than in The Dark Knight, where all the rules are going to be broken now. He's fighting in daylight. He's got police next to him. It's a very, very shocking image, I'll admit. But think of, like, Return of the Jedi, for example. Think of the character of Darth Vader. Maybe one of the most memorable ultimate villains ever to be on screen. And what does he do at the end of that film? He saves his son. He picks up the Emperor and throws him down a shaft. He commits the most ultimate act of heroism. Darth Vader committed an act of heroism. But you think about how shocking that is, right? In the third film, all the rules are broken because this is the end of the story. And the concept of ending a Batman story is in itself very, very exciting. In the same way Batman Begins broke new ground, I feel like this film will too, in telling a new story, which actually has me very, very excited. Not that The Dark Knight wasn't new, but it was a very, in a way, a much better version of The Long Halloween, giving the Joker much more importance. So it's kind of like Long Halloween with a much better Joker in it. And not really the murder mystery aspect to it. So, with this film, it's interesting because in comics, the stories never end. It's a soap opera. It just keeps going and going and going. And the same thing was with cartoons. So, that opens new possibilities because we don't know what can happen in this story. Anybody can die. Anything can happen. And what would be the logical conclusion to this? I don't know. The only example I can think of is maybe The Dark Knight Returns, the comic. But the funny part is that Frank Miller actually came out with a sequel to that. So for me personally, this is what I'm excited for. The flaws for me, so to speak, is I'm not really a big fan of end-of-the-world machines or devices or weapons. I feel it's a little bit of a shortcut, and it's a little bit of it's not interesting. I don't know. I don't. In Batman Begins, the only thing I don't like is the microwave emitter thing with the gas and stuff. And in this film, The Dark Knight Rises looks like Bane is gonna have some kind of device that makes things implode or something with a football field. That's maybe the only part that I'm not really. It's not that I don't like it. I just don't care really. It could be another thing that I see Nolan maybe is a little Star Wars inspired. Maybe it's like his Death Star idea. He has Death Stars in his movies. It's a way of creating an ultimate threat. And I get it. It raises the stakes. It makes what's going on feel important. But for me, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about Death Stars. I like Darth Vader's. And in that respect, I think we're going to get that with Bane. That level of a villain. And the only other thing is I would like more of a detective Batman or more of a clever Batman. Because I like when Batman is like he has a plan all along. And no matter how bad the situation gets, it's like he had a backup plan. You see that in Batman Begins near the end, when the train, and then Ra's al Ghul says you had no chance of stopping this train, and Batman is like, who said anything about stopping it? And then Ra's al Ghul looks and realizes that there was no tracks. I like that kind of stuff. That's the Batman that I like most. More than the gadgets, more than even the martial arts, more than anything, is the cleverness, the power of his mind. That's what makes him one of the... They say he's one of the most dangerous heroes on the Justice League because of that. And The Dark Knight, I didn't see that as much. And Dark Knight Rises, I hope to see it more, because that's the Batman I grew up on. The animated series, the cartoons, that Batman is really clever. 60s show, he just went for his utility belt all the time. Aside from that show being silly and campy, this is part of it. If there was a shark, he'd have shark repellent, so there was no power of the mind there. It was just ridiculous. And in Burton's films, you know, the Batman, he wasn't really that clever. It's just things seem to just always work out. But like when he initially does something, it's just like, what was he thinking? That it was going to, like, you know, when he lets Kim Basinger go up on the grapple, and then he just lets himself fall and rolls on some garbage and gets shot. Like, that could have went really wrong, but it just kind of works out. He's not really that smart, but man, in Burton's films, does he make good entrances with music and everything, just crashing through the glass and everything. I mean, Burton really knows how to give Batman great entrances. That's definitely one of the things I like about those films. Though his Bruce Wayne is a little bit dull, but maybe he was trying to create a contrast. So like Bruce Wayne is dull, Batman is more interesting by contrast. So that's all I have to say. I think I might have went a little bit long on this, but very interested to see The Dark Knight Rises. From the trailer, it seems to me that there's a lot of unanswered questions. Watch it carefully, because there seems to be a lot of things in there that really make me wonder what's happening. I see a guy holding a cane. I see people busting out. I see this looks like a wealthy person's house, and they're throwing all their stuff around and maybe revolting against the rich. What else? I see there's a part that looked like Bruce Wayne in his regular clothes, jumping off of a building or something and falling. Very interesting. I'm very curious. I don't even know what this movie is really yet. It's just like they've shown me a bunch of images, and I don't really know what the story is exactly. But it just seems like the stakes are a lot higher, and I'm wondering how this is all going to culminate, how this is all going to end. And Prologue, I did get to see it, of course, early on, and when I went to go see Mission Impossible, I got to see it again. I think the point of that Prologue is to show the intensity of Bane, and I think it delivered that. I think even right away when the bag comes off his head and you just see his eyes, which is amazing, because all you really see is his eyes. Tom Hardy has to act just there. He does look intense. So, I'm looking forward to it. So keep the debate going. If you want to make comments, go right ahead. I do read them all. And thanks for watching.